The following presentation is brought to you by American Legion Post 416, Greendale, Wisconsin. Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW Post 10, 519, Greendale, Wisconsin. Disabled American Veterans, DAV Chapter 19, West Allis, Wisconsin. The Veterans Community Relations Team, VCRT, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Machinery and Welder Corporation, West Allis, Wisconsin. And by viewers like you. From the global resources of Veterans Media Services. This is Veterans Newsline with Dave Ragnar. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of Veterans Newsline. Today, we are at Marquette University, and joining me now is Charles Mulcahy, and I'm going to give Charles a little chance to help me do the intro here. Charles, tell us all about what we're gathered here at Marquette University for, and a little bit about today's event.
Be happy to do that. Thank you for doing this. Happy Veterans Media Services is a great thing in our community, and we're most appreciative. We're at Marquette University. We're at the ROTC complex, where cadets and midshipmen are served and trained to become part of the Officer Corps of the United States of America. Today's a special day because we are dedicating plaques involving General Douglas MacArthur, who received an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from Marquette on April 27th, 1951, and also Captain Robert McCahill, who was a Marquette graduate, a student athlete, was signed a contract to play in the NFL, instead chose the Marine Corps and gave his life for our country on the beach of Iwo Jima in 1945. The following year, the family set up the McCahill Award, recognizing the outstanding student, scholar, athlete, senior at Marquette University for all sports. Today, we're dedicating 4 plaques, 3 of them involving General MacArthur, and the 4th involving the McCahill Award here at Marquette University. It's a combined program supported by Marquette, the VCRT, the ROTC programs, Navy, Army, Air Force. We have a large gathering here of veterans, academics, the College of Arts and Sciences. Dean was here speaking, the Director of Athletics of Marquette, William Scholl, will be speaking. And we feel that this is a very important way to unveil these plaques here in what we as old-timers used to call the Clyburn Street Gym. It's now called the ROTC Gymnasium. So that's my intro, and that's why we're here.
All right, and Charles, just a little bit about the VCRT, where you're a member of that group. Tell us a little bit about who they are and what they do.
I am a member, that's correct. The VCRT stands for the Veterans Community Relations Team. It's a group that was organized approximately 3.5 years ago at a time when it looked like the war memorial might be taken over by the Milwaukee Art Museum. And we decided to band together the veterans to come up with a plan to save the war memorial, to provide proper funding for its operation, to secure monies from Milwaukee County to refurbish the building, to go ahead with projects like this MacArthur project. So the VCRT last June of 2014 had a MacArthur Memorial Week, 5 days of programs concerning Douglas MacArthur. We moved the MacArthur statue through the VCRT. That was chaired by Greg West, one of our VCRT members. The statue was moved to the lakefront where it stands today.
All right, Chaz, I want to thank you very much for talking and helping me do this intro. In a minute, we're going to take a look at today's event, but Peter Gilbert, our roving reporter, is out there, and he's talking to a bunch of people today. Peter, who you got on tap for us today?
Thanks, Dave. With us right now we have Frank Parker, retired Commander Sergeant Major Frank Parker. Frank, you told me earlier on that you were a member of ROTC here?
Yes.
And what's brought you here today especially?
Well, for the MacArthur Day celebration, I think this is something great and something wonderful that happens here in Milwaukee to show our involvement, okay, at this time for this great man, that we honor him.
He certainly was. And tell me, how many years were you in the Army?
46 and a half years.
46, that's the longest I've actually heard from somebody. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And are you going to be having meetings with people here?
Yes, I am. The curator from the MacArthur Museum in Richmond, Virginia, Mr. Jim Zolba, will be having a couple of conversations with him today, and a couple of meetings with him. And matter of fact, for the next 2 or 3 days, I will be.
You're his chauffeur.
Plus, I'm his chauffeur. Yes.
That's great. Well, Frank, thanks for being with us this morning, and enjoy the day. Thank you.
And thanks for inviting me. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Now.
And right now we have with us Lieutenant Colonel Robert Hassler, and Lieutenant Colonel is the commander of the Detachment 930 of the ROTC here at Marquette.
Correct.
And could you mind telling us about how the ROTC with the Air Force works as opposed to the Army?
Sure. The Air Force ROTC is a very similar program. We came to Marquette a little bit after the Army. The Army and Navy were here a lot before us, but we came in the mid-'80s, and we were originally a separate detachment from the detachment in Madison at the University of Wisconsin. But we are a very similar program where we commission cadets into the Air Force as second lieutenants, but it's a program that's laid on top of their normal college education. So in addition to receiving their degree, they're earning a commission while they go through college.
That's great. Do you have any connection with the ROTC at Greenfield High School?
We talked to the folks at the Junior ROTC program there. They're the only Junior ROTC program that is Air Force affiliated that is in the state of Wisconsin. So we like to keep in touch with them, and sometimes their folks are interested in coming on to Senior ROTC. Sometimes they like to go directly into the Air Force as enlisted members, but we maintain contact with them and try and continue to offer them opportunities as they want to continue their development.
Do you have a similar amount of students in your detachment as opposed to the Army version? Or?
We have a smaller program here at Marquette. We have 28 cadets right now, which is kind of a small point in our program. Another unique feature is we service 13 different schools here in the Milwaukee area. Marquette is our host institution, but there are 13 other institutions that are part of our program as well.
Okay. Well, Lieutenant Colonel Hassler, thank you for being with us this morning, and enjoy the breakfast in the program. Okay, with us here right now we have Bill Fink, and Bill is a retired also from the military, and you told me you were also in the ROTC but not here. Would you care to tell us, Bill?
Yes, I attended the University of Cincinnati, studied civil engineering, and was an ROTC cadet, and upon graduation I was commissioned in the Army Corps of Engineers, went on active duty in August of 1961 and went through engineer officer basic course at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And then I was assigned to a construction engineer battalion at Fort Benning, Georgia, where I spent most of my tour of duty at Fort Benning.
Now, you're also involved with this project. You did some of the historical fact-finding for the plaques, is that correct?
Yes, we developed the language for 4 of the plaques, covering the MacArthur family and all its connections with Milwaukee, and in particular Douglas MacArthur and how he studied for his West Point entrance exams at Milwaukee's West Division High School, and he was appointed to West Point by Congressman Theobald Otchin in 1899. And after graduation and upon his commissioning in the Army Corps of Engineers, he was actually stationed in Milwaukee for 2 years between 1907 and 1909 on river and harbors duty.
Thank you, Bill. That's a most interesting story. A lot of people will be learning about this the first time today. Thank you for coming. Okay. Thank you. With us right now, we're such pleased to have with us James Zobel, who's the historian and archivist from the MacArthur Museum in Norfolk, Virginia. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
When did you get in?
Just yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday afternoon.
Right.
And you have a good flight?
Yep. Sure did.
Yeah. And what is your position to do here today? What are you going to be speaking about?
Well, with the connection with Marquette, it'll basically just talk about Douglas MacArthur and his connection with Marquette, as well as the MacArthur family, you know, their ancestral home here in Milwaukee. And so we'll just focus on that.
Okay. Thanks so much for being with us here today. Thank you. With us right now we have former Mayor of Franklin, Tom Taylor. And Tom's also was the former chairman of the Milwaukee County Mayors and Village Presidents. And thank you for being with us. And what's brought you here today?
Well, I got to know Chaz Mulcahy very well, and he was gracious enough to invite me here. General MacArthur was always one of my heroes, and I think he's probably one of the greatest heroes America's ever had. So it's a great privilege to be here today.
It certainly is, especially today's the actual day. 64 years ago, General MacArthur received his honorary law degree from the university here, and this is why we're having this special breakfast at the ROTC down at the Clybourne Gymnasium. And what else are you going to be doing today?
Oh, probably just watching. I love patriotic songs, so I heard the choir rehearsing, and it sounds like they have a terrific soprano there. So I'm going to be enjoying the patriotic songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know about the lecture this afternoon at 4 p.m. with James Zobel?
I did not. No. I know that there's ceremonies for the next several days, right? Is that?
Well, today there's going to be a lecture at 4 o'clock. No charge, and James Zobel's going to be lecturing on MacArthur in World War I.
Oh, well, if I can make it there, I'll try and make it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mayor Taylor. Thanks for being with us today. And
thank you for allowing me to be here. This is really a great privilege, and like I said, Douglas MacArthur was one of my big heroes, and I would hope that America would really appreciate all the things that he did for us.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Dave.
All right, and thank you, Peter, for those wonderful reports. And now, let's take a look at today's event.
We're looking for Lieutenant Colonel Michael Gibson. Please step forward. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Gibson has a long and distinguished military career. He's the person that's responsible for us being here this morning. He is the leader of the Marquette University Army ROTC. He's been a great person to work with, and as all of you know, Douglas MacArthur was in the U.S. Army. So Lieutenant Colonel Gibson will start our program. Thank you.
Good morning, Vice President Scholl, General Otjen and family, and the McCahill family, Dean Richard Holtz, Major General Lima, James Zobel, our keynote speaker, members of the Milwaukee Veterans Community Relations Team, friends, family, cadets, midshipmen, and anybody else that I missed. Welcome to today's MacArthur commemoration, the plaque dedication, and the start to the MacArthur Memorial Days 2015. As you heard, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mike Gibson, the chairman and professor for the Department of Military Science for Army ROTC. And like you said, I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for today's commemoration. First, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us this early Monday morning, out of your busy schedules to celebrate the family, the life, the Milwaukeean, the leader, and the General of the Army, Douglas MacArthur. Furthermore, we're here to recognize the connection that General MacArthur had with Marquette University, the role and importance of ROTC at Marquette, and the interconnections the military has with Marquette University, the athletic department, and with the McCahill family. Finally, I'd like to thank all the individuals and organizations that supported the execution of this outstanding commemoration. And without you, we would not be able to relive our history and continue to learn from it, which is so important to America's future and to the future of our officer leaders. At this time, I'd ask that you please stand and remain standing for the posting of the colors, singing of the national anthem, recital of the Pledge of Allegiance, and grace. Post the colors.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red, the bombs bursting, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Order, march. Up, face. Forward, march.
At this time, Michael Balistrieri, member of the War Memorial Board of Trustees and a member of the Milwaukee Veterans Community Relations Team, will lead us in recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'd like Father Zeps to come forward. He will provide grace.
I just had a wedding reception at the War Memorial on Saturday, and I'm happy to report that the work in renovating it is going ahead very rapidly, and it's making good progress. So let us pray. Lord our God, we are gathered here in your presence to praise and thank you for your gifts to us. You have given us a great nation, a nation dedicated to the ideals that you wish your people to implement. We thank you for our close connection with the Philippines, for all of the assistance in warfare that they have provided for us, for the example during the war of great dedication and sacrifice. We thank you for the legacy of Douglas MacArthur, and we ask you to continue to inspire our young people with similar dedication. Bless us this morning, bless us, and bless the food we eat. May it give us health and strength to serve you in everything we do. And we ask this through Christ our Lord.
So at this time, we'll go ahead and get the commemoration started. So first, I'd like to introduce our Dean for the Klingler College of Arts and Science, an ardent supporter of our 3 ROTC programs, the Army, Navy, and Air Force, Dr. Richard Holz. He holds a Bachelor of Science from Bemidji State University, a Master of Science from the University of Minnesota Duluth, and a Doctor of Philosophy from the Pennsylvania State University, all in chemistry. At this time, Dr. Holz.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome on behalf of the students, faculty, staff, and administration of Marquette University. I want to thank you all for being here for this wonderful event. As the Dean of the Klingler College of Arts and Sciences, the place where Marquette delivers a transformative Jesuit education, I'm extremely proud and pleased to see the collaboration between the departments of history and military sciences. As you know, military sciences are a part of the Klingler College of Arts and Sciences, and we're incredibly grateful for that connection. They're led extremely well by Colonel Haster, Captain Olson, and Colonel Gibson. And I would like to specifically thank Colonel Gibson for planning and putting on this event, along with Chaz Mulcahy, and his vision for this particular event. So join me in thanking Colonel Gibson. This 3-day event around the MacArthur McCahill program at Marquette is extremely important to both the departments of history and to military science and the ROTC programs here at Marquette. The collaboration between history and military science is an important one. And as you can imagine, it serves our students, both ROTC students and arts and science students, greatly. I would like to point to your attention the various events that are ongoing this week around the MacArthur McCahill Memorial Day celebration. So, of course, the breakfast this morning, but then 4 p.m. this afternoon, there's the Douglas MacArthur and World War I lecture in room 157, Alumni Memorial Union. Tomorrow, April 28th at 11:45 a.m., there's the MacArthurs of Milwaukee Rotary Club Luncheon in Memorial Hall, War Memorial Center. And then at 5:30 on Tuesday is the General Arthur and Douglas MacArthur and the Philippines, a program that will be at the Philippines Center, which is at Zablocki Park Pavilion. And then on Wednesday at 11:45 a.m., General Douglas MacArthur and the U.S. Navy, Milwaukee's Kiwanis Luncheon in Memorial Hall, War Memorial Center. So I'd invite all of you to attend all of these if you can, or as many as you can. These are wonderful events celebrating a truly great American hero. So thank you and enjoy the week.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Major General Paul Lima. He is the Wisconsin Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army and also President of the Wisconsin Community Advisory Board.
I've been asked to address everyone today and talk a little bit about one of the members of the VCRT and a person that I've worked with for a number of years, John Curtis. Before starting, I'd like to say that we're pleased to have John's daughter, Sarah, here with us. Thank you for being here, Sarah. John was a very special person. He strongly believed in service to others. He had been active in community service most of his adult life. He devoted over 50 years of active service to the Boy Scouts of America, and it was in that calling that I first met him in 2006. Over the next 8 years, John and I became good friends, and we volunteered together, not only with the Boy Scouts, but also on other boards to support our soldiers in uniform. John was the founder of the Army Community Advisory Board of Wisconsin, and he was my vice chairman for over 6 years. We worked with the 5 senior ROTC units in Wisconsin and extensively here at Marquette ROTC in this building, and also with enlisted recruiting throughout the state. Although John never wore the uniform of the armed forces, he was a quick learner, and over time came to appreciate and admire the dedication and sacrifices of our soldiers. When Chaz invited our board last year to join in the planning of the MacArthur Week, John quickly established his value to the VCRT MacArthur Forum. He was an important part of the forum's fundraising campaign and served with distinction as the chair of the forum's transportation committee. In addition, John attended most of the major activities of the Golden Eagle Battalion here at Marquette, both during the tenure of Lieutenant Colonel Rob Kataravic and now with Lieutenant Colonel Gibson. As a matter of fact, the last time that John drove his car was to attend the Veterans Day Wall of Honor ceremony here at Marquette. John passed peacefully on February 28, 2015, at the age of 78. All of us that were privileged to know John miss his warm and friendly presence. I know that he is looking down on us today, well pleased that we are here today to dedicate the MacArthur and McCahill plaques. Thank you very much.
This time I'd like to introduce William Fink. He's the chair for the MacArthur History Committee. He's going to give an overview on the history of the development of our MacArthur plaques, which we'll unveil later this morning.
Thank you, Colonel Gibson, and good morning, everyone. I wanted to say quickly, in talking to Mike Gibson, found out how much we have in common. We're both from Cincinnati, both have degrees from Xavier University, both went through ROTC, both were commissioned in the Army Corps of Engineers, as was General MacArthur, and now we're both connected with Marquette. So it's amazing how much you can have in common with someone. The plaques that we're going to unveil today grew out of last year's MacArthur Memorial Week and the moving of the statue of General MacArthur to its rightful place on the lakefront in Veterans Park. At that time, we realized we'd have to have more information about the general, and we were assigned the responsibility of developing language for plaques. There wasn't enough room on the base of the pedestal there, so we had to plan on separate standalone plaques, and we're still working on those. But in connection with the development of language for those plaques, Chaz Mulcahy decided that it would be a good idea to have similar plaques at Marquette, and he met with Colonel Gibson, and they agreed that it would be appropriate to develop plaques for placement as part of a permanent exhibit at the Marquette ROTC facilities. And initially, it was decided that the time to unveil these plaques would be to commemorate the 64th anniversary of the visit of General MacArthur, the return of General MacArthur to Milwaukee. So April 27th was the date, the key date, and plans were put in place for this event. In the meantime, Chaz and Mike Taylor started to draft some language for plaques that would not only describe the connections of the MacArthur family with Milwaukee, but also the connections of General MacArthur with Marquette. And Chaz appointed a history committee on which I'm privileged to serve, along with several other individuals that I will introduce in a minute. But we decided that General MacArthur and all his Milwaukee connections and Marquette connections were too big for any one plaque, and we need about 4 plaques. So the plaques we're going to unveil are going to include a plaque on the MacArthurs of Milwaukee describing General MacArthur's grandfather, who was a prominent lawyer and judge in Milwaukee, but also his father, Arthur MacArthur, who was a decorated hero of Civil War for his actions at Missionary Ridge with the 24th Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry Regiment. And of course, General MacArthur, Douglas MacArthur himself, although he was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, actually studied for his West Point entrance exams at Milwaukee's then West Side High School, and was appointed to West Point by Congressman Theobald Otchen of Milwaukee. And so those are, and then upon graduation from West Point, General MacArthur was stationed on river and harbors duty in Milwaukee between 1907 and 1909. And then this plaque will also describe how General MacArthur, upon his return to Milwaukee after being relieved of command in Korea, was greeted by huge crowds and spoke at Marquette's old football stadium, was granted an honorary Doctor of Laws degree by Marquette, and how he also spoke at the dedication of MacArthur Square near the courthouse. And after his death in 1979, how his widow returned to Milwaukee to unveil and dedicate the statue of General MacArthur. And Chaz Mulcahy was very much involved in that particular event. And of course, last year we commemorated the 50th anniversary of the General's passing, and also the 35th anniversary of the dedication of that statue. So that's a lot of information on one plaque, and then we're going to, one of the other plaques talks about all the connections of General MacArthur with Marquette, in addition to the honorary Doctor of Laws degree, how he passed the Marquette campus every day on his walk to Westside High School for his entrance exams, and he told President Edward O'Donnell of Marquette how if he hadn't gone to West Point, he would have liked to have gone to Marquette. And they maintained correspondence over the years. The third plaque is going to talk about Marquette and the McCahill Award, which honors the memory of the McCahill brothers, two heroes, one of which, Robert McCahill, died in action on the beach at Iwo Jima. He was a student athlete at Marquette, and he turned down a contract to play in the National Football League and enlisted in the Marine Corps. And his older brother was also a captain in the Marine Corps and received many honors. So the McCahill Award is named after the McCahill brothers and awarded to outstanding student athletes at Marquette. And the fourth plaque is going to list all the many lifetime accomplishments diplomatically as well as militarily of Douglas MacArthur. So those are the plaques that we're going to be unveiling. A fifth plaque recognizes all the many organizations and individuals who contributed to not only MacArthur Memorial Week, but also the preservation of the War Memorial Center. And this would not be possible without all the input of members of the History Committee, and I'd like to have them stand if they are present. Is Mike Bell present? Yeah, Michael Bell, who's also the historian for the Cudworth Post. Is Mike Taylor here? Apparently not. Dave Schenk, is Dave present? And of course Chaz Mulcahy himself, and Chaz appointed me as chair, which I appreciate. And it's amazing how much work goes into developing an exhibit like we are unveiling today, and I hope you will learn something from the information in this exhibit, and thank you for your attendance this morning.
This time I'd like to introduce Captain Daniel Olson. He's the chairman and professor for the Department of Naval Science. He's a graduate of the United States Naval Academy. He holds a Master of Science in Global Leadership from the University of San Diego and a Master of Arts in Education from the University of St. Mary. Captain Olson.
Ladies and gentlemen, men and women of the Army, Navy, and Air Force ROTC programs, good morning. I've been asked to talk briefly about the Robert McCahill Award. We're here to principally recognize a great leader in American history, in American military history. But I think General MacArthur would be the first to admit that without the service, sacrifice, and dedication of thousands of men and women, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, our accomplishments around the world wouldn't be possible. Captain Robert McCahill was a graduate of Marquette University and joined the United States Marine Corps in 1942, shortly after the United States entered into war with Japan and Germany. As part of the 3rd Paratroop Battalion, 1st Paratroop Regiment, he first saw action in the Battle of Guadalcanal, where more than 6,000 Marines were lost in the first major amphibious battle in the Pacific. 3 years later, on the second day of the landing of Iwo Jima, Captain McCahill fell in service to his country. One of more than 6,800 Marines who died in that 36-day battle Captain McCahill was awarded a Bronze Star with Combat V for his sacrifice on that day. The McCahill Award has been awarded since 1946 at Marquette University to students for excellence in scholarship, leadership, and athletics. It's been awarded every year since then, and I was proud to be present at the last recognition. And yes, she is an amazing, amazing woman. I think it's important in today to continue to recognize the sacrifice of those who served before us in order to remember the past so we can honor their sacrifice and serve our future better. I think Marquette's connection and continued recognition of the McCahill family and recognizing those stellar and outstanding student athletes for their service is a remarkable way of honoring those individuals. Thank you very much.
This time I'd like to introduce Mr. Charles, or Chaz, Mulcahy. He's a 1959 College of Arts and Sciences graduate, a 1962 College of Law graduate, a member of the Milwaukee Veterans Community Relations Team, the MacArthur Book Collection donor, and an avid MacArthur historian who will briefly discuss the origination of the MacArthur History Committee and introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, and good morning. It's a wonderful, wonderful situation here at Marquette with Douglas MacArthur, the McCahills, the McCahill Award, our commanding officers of the Army, Navy, and Air Force being here. So James, at this point, you can start walking up. James Zobel. MacArthur returned to the Philippines, and James Zobel is returning here to Marquette and to Milwaukee. Within the past 2 months, he spent 3 weeks in the Philippines, and he'll be involved in a program at the Philippines Center tomorrow afternoon starting at 5:30. That's in the Zablocki Park, and that's in the city of Greenfield. So come on up, James. James, after the MacArthur Memorial Week, we had 5 days of programs culminating with the move of the statue to the lakefront. He was unanimously voted the outstanding speaker of the 2014 MacArthur Memorial Week. He is currently the archivist of the MacArthur Memorial Museum in Norfolk, Virginia. We are honored to have James Zobel back with us today. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for having me back to Milwaukee. I'm very glad to be here, but I'm really most glad of the fact that you didn't hold these events in the dead of winter. Because coming from Virginia, I don't know if I would have been able to accept. I don't know how you all do it. Last June, here for the rededication of the statue, which stands down right on Lake Michigan now. And yesterday, after I got here, we went right by the statue again to see it and saw that you got the new plaque there, General of the Army, Douglas MacArthur, 5 stars, 1880, 1964, duty on our country, his credo. It is one of the finest statues of MacArthur. There are statues at West Point, in Norfolk, Milwaukee, Brownsville, Texas, Los Angeles, Manila, and Tokyo. But it's only fitting, really, that Milwaukee has one of the finest statues of MacArthur, being that it's the ancestral home of the MacArthurs. As we heard earlier, Judge Arthur MacArthur, immigrant of Scotland, grew up in Massachusetts and Connecticut, but then really made his name here in Milwaukee. City attorney, circuit court judge, lieutenant governor, and for 5 days at one period was actually the governor of Wisconsin. And really with his good friends Alexander Mitchell and Brigadier General Rufus King, he was one of the real first movers and shakers of Milwaukee and one of the builders of this city. And then his son, as we heard, Arthur MacArthur, grew up here in Milwaukee, serves with the other sons of Milwaukee with the 24th Wisconsin. After a 47-year career, returned to Milwaukee to retire And then in 1912, dies. And speaking in front of all of his old Civil War comrades, right in the middle of his speech, basically said, I can't go on, and died right in front of him. And they put the old 24th Wisconsin colors right over him, right there. Douglas MacArthur really got his start going to West Point from Milwaukee. So there is that connection, very strong connection. MacArthur always said he felt this was his home, which angered a lot of people when he chose Norfolk as the city to put all of his things because of his mother being from Norfolk. Now the connection between Marquette and MacArthur is really sealed. 64 years ago today, when they gave him the Doctor of Laws at the old Marquette Stadium in front of 20,000 people. Now, March 24, 1951, Reverend O'Donnell wrote to MacArthur and said, we want you to come here to Milwaukee to grant you this Doctor of Laws. We want you to come at our commencement ceremonies, which would have been on June 13th of 1951. And MacArthur wrote him back a very nice letter. I have no plans on being back in the United States in June of 1951. Little did MacArthur know that a few weeks later, President Truman would remove him of all of his commands, and then he would be back in the United States. Landing in San Francisco, 17 April, all of a sudden he gets a telephone call from Mayor Zeidler of Milwaukee. MacArthur hadn't made any plans. He was going to tour the country for 2 years after he came back. But when he came back, he only had plans to go to Washington and Chicago, and Zeidler picked up on that. Well, we need you to get back to come to your ancestral home. And that's when O'Donnell renewed that idea of come here and we'll give you the Doctor of Laws. And it was all set up for 64 years ago today. Now, what is very ironic is that when O'Donnell wrote to MacArthur in March, the main thing he stressed was Marquette's ROTC program. That Marquette had trained thousands of young men and women for the Officer Reserve Corps through their Army and Navy ROTC training program. And here we rededicate it today. Now, MacArthur was a great believer in the ROTC program. He was a great believer that the Officer Corps of the United States was the greatest asset that this country had, and something that needed to be treasured and nurtured. Because without the Officer Corps, there is no defense of the United States. And without the defense of the United States, there is no United States. Now, as Chief of Staff, MacArthur serves in World War I, World War II, occupation of Japan, Korean War, but the greatest legacy that he left to this country was his time as the Chief of Staff, because he kept that Officer Corps whole. It was the middle of the Depression. There was no money. He didn't put any money into mechanization, which the Germans were putting a lot of money into. He didn't put any money into air power. Everything went to keeping that Officer Corps. Now, when President Roosevelt became the president in 1932, he called MacArthur into the Oval Office, and said, okay, you're going to have to get together with the Congress because we're going to slash that budget, and you're going to lose half the Officer Corps. And MacArthur said, all right, well, that next war, that last breath out of that boy's mouth is going to be Roosevelt, not MacArthur. And pretty much Roosevelt was like, you can't talk to me like that, I'm the president. And MacArthur realized he'd pushed the limit and said he offered to resign right there. But then Roosevelt understood why MacArthur was so adamant about preserving that Officer Corps, that most treasured asset of the United States, and said, no, we'll get together with Congress, we'll keep the Officer Corps. Now, through all his reports as Chief of Staff, what he talks about most is the ROTC program. Created in 1916 with the National Defense Act, MacArthur said every dollar that the federal government throws into the ROTC program has been proven to be the most worthy cause that the federal government can do. Because he believed that they needed this program. He believed the country needed the program. And he was all for it. Now, MacArthur was worried. Well, not really worried, because he had the courage of his convictions of what the country needed. But he thought, and it was true, that many people ascribed this to the creation of militarism within the United States. But MacArthur said there was nothing further from the truth. That those ROTC units were being taught that civilians had control of the military, which again is very ironic for something for Douglas MacArthur to say, because he got fired just for that reason. But I think MacArthur broke it down most in one of his chief of staff reports about what the military means, about what the code is. That the military code comes down to us from even before the age of chivalry and knighthood. It embraces the highest moral laws and will stand the test of any ethics of philosophies ever promulgated for the uplift of mankind. Its requirements are for the things that are right, and its restraints are for the things that are wrong. Its observance will uplift everyone who comes under its influence. And that's why I think MacArthur, as well as all of us, believe so much that this ROTC program at Marquette is something that should continue. I got to see the collection earlier today that's been created for scholarship of the ROTC students. And I just want to dedicate now that the MacArthur Memorial stands ready to assist with this in any way possible for the furtherance of the scholarship of all those ROTC cadets. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for having me back, and I look forward to the next couple of days.
Outstanding. Thank you so very much. So, Mr. Zobel, on behalf of Marquette University, its ROTC programs, the Milwaukee Veterans Community Relation Team, and all those involved in the planning and preparation of this event, we present you with this small token of appreciation. It's a Golden Eagle bust, which is the Marquette Golden Eagle, and it's inscribed James Zobel, very simply, MacArthur at Marquette, April 27th, 2015. Thank you. So thank you very much. At this time, we're now going to unveil the plaques to my left and right, which will also be displayed out in the hall for posterity as long as our buildings are here. So James Zobel and Chaz Mulcahy will now unveil the first poster. And like William Fink spoke about before, you see the one plaque here. And then on the right, the third plaque and fourth plaque down at the bottom left with pictures that will be posted around that. So like I said, in addition to the installation of the plaques which are out in the hall, which you can peruse after, there is also a MacArthur collection of books which resides on the second floor of the Army ROTC in the Colonel Edward Day Memorial Library. So I'd ask that you please also go upstairs and take a look at those books. So this concludes our ceremony. So at this time, we will go ahead and I'd ask that you please stand for retiring of our colors. Retrieve the colors. To thank the Army ROTC Choir and the Joint Tri-Service Color Guard for their support of our event today, and everyone for attending. This concludes our commemoration. And again, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here, and please continue to look at the photos through the day, get upstairs to look at the library, and participate in other events throughout the week. Thank you very much.
And that's it for this edition of Veterans Newsline. Join us again next time for more Veterans news and events from southeastern Wisconsin. Until next time, I'm Dave Ryba. Thanks for watching.